All right, so today we're diving deep into Coca-Cola.
That's right, the beverage giant.
Ticker symbol KO.
Yeah, KO, we're going to be using a recent analyst report as our main source here.
So if you're thinking, oh, Coca-Cola, I know all about it,
Yeah,
stick with us because there's always something new to learn, especially when we're talking about the stock market,
absolutely. There's a lot more to these big companies than meets the eye.
especially one like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
They are everywhere,
It's easy to just sort of think like, oh yeah, Coca-Cola, I know that.
right?
But they're a global behemoth.
They really are. And this report highlights that starting with a phenomenal fourth quarter of 2024.
They crushed it
Yeah, exceeding expectations.
across the board,
14% organic revenue growth, 2% unit case volume growth.
which is huge.
It is huge, and a 7% jump in comparable earnings per share.
I mean, that's really impressive,
That is impressive, especially when you think about,
especially when you consider some of the headwinds they were facing.
right, like currency headwinds.
Exactly. Like, think about it. You sell a Coke in Brazil for $1.
Right.
If the Brazilian real weakens against the dollar, that dollar translates to less profit for Coca-Cola.
That makes sense.
And they also had to deal with the impact of bottler refranchising.
Oh, yeah. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically Coca-Cola is moving away from owning and operating a lot of their bottling plants.
Interesting.
They're selling them off to independent bottlers.
So they're getting out of the bottling business.
Kind of, they're focusing more on their core strengths,
Okay.
which are brand management, marketing, product development, the big picture stuff,
Right.
and letting their partners handle the more capital intensive.
The actual bottling and distribution.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So it's like they're outsourcing the heavy lifting so they can focus on strategy.
Exactly. But as the report points out, it's not without its challenges.
Right.
This transition can disrupt operations. It can impact their financial performance in the short term.
Yeah, it's got to be a headache.
It's a bit of a headache. And then they also have to manage these relationships with all these independent bottlers.
Right.
Make sure everyone's on the same page, quality control, brand consistency.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a trade-off.
Absolutely. So let's talk about 2025.
The future.
The report projects slower EPS growth between 2 and 3%.
Yeah, a bit of a slowdown.
Why is that after such a strong 2024?
Well, there are a couple of key factors at play here.
Okay.
First, they're anticipating a pretty significant currency headwind,
Oh, well.
which could knock off like 6 to 7 percentage points from their EPS growth.
Wow.
And on top of that, they're expecting to make a one-time transition tax payment of $1.2 billion.
Ouch.
Yeah, those are definitely going to impact their bottom line.
So that makes sense. Yeah, there's always but
The report also highlights that their organic revenue growth
right?
is still projected to be at the high end of their long-term target,
Which is?
5 to 6% growth.
Okay, so that's still pretty good.
Yeah, their core business is still expected to perform well.
So it's more about external factors, these one-off events.
Exactly. Not necessarily any fundamental weakness in their operations.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Yeah, I think so.
So let's move on to valuation.
Okay.
The report states that the current share price is slightly below their estimated fair value,
Interesting.
which suggests maybe a slight undervaluation.
But, we've talked about this before.
Right,
Undervalued doesn't automatically equal buy.
exactly. So what else should we be looking at?
Well, the report dives into Coca-Cola's all-weather strategy.
All-weather strategy. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's essentially their playbook for navigating different economic climates.
Okay.
Think about it. They've got these incredibly strong brands that people love, a vast global network to get those brands everywhere,
Right.
and local partners who really understand their markets.
So they're prepared for anything.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All weather.
All weather, sunshine, rain, snow, they're ready.
The report actually mentions Fairlife as a success story,
Oh, yeah.
as an example of this all-weather strategy in action.
Yeah, so Fairlife is tapping into this growing demand for premium protein-rich products,
Right,
which is something that Coca-Cola was kind of lacking before.
right. They were mainly known for their sodas.
Exactly, but Fairlife shows that they're adapting to these evolving consumer trends.
Which is good.
They're not just relying on their legacy products.
Right, they're innovating.
Exactly.
But the report also flags some potential risks.
There's always risks.
Right, currency fluctuations, macroeconomic pressures.
Yeah, those are always concerns for global companies like Coca-Cola.
And even the impact of GLP-1 drugs on consumer behavior.
That's an interesting one.
It is interesting.
It kind of highlights how interconnected everything is,
Right.
Global economics, medical trends, consumer behavior, it's all intertwined.
It really is. But even with these risks, Coca-Cola seems committed to long-term growth.
Oh, absolutely.
The report mentions significant capital expenditures planned, especially for expanding Fairlife.
Yeah, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
And developing infrastructure in high-growth markets like India and Africa,
That's a smart move.
it is a smart move.
Those markets have huge potential.
Yeah, a rising middle class.
Exactly, and Coca-Cola wants to be there.
So they're playing the long game,
They are.
which is good to see.
Yeah, I'm not just focused on short-term profits.
Right, they're thinking about the future.
Exactly.
So what are analysts saying about all of this?
Well, the report mentions an average price target of $75 for Coca-Cola's stock.
That's pretty good.
It is, but
We shouldn't just blindly follow what analysts say.
Exactly. It's important to do your own research, weigh the evidence carefully, consider your own investment goals and risk tolerance.
Absolutely solid advice.
Thanks.
So if we were to distill all of this down to a few key takeaways for our listeners,
Yeah, let's do that.
what would they be?
Okay, so first, Coca-Cola had a really strong Q4 performance exceeding expectations despite some headwinds.
Okay.
Second, they're projecting slower EPS growth in 2025, driven by currency fluctuations and that one-time tax payment.
Right.
But their core business remains strong.
Okay.
Third, they're facing ongoing risks and challenges, things like macroeconomic pressures, evolving consumer preferences.
Right.
And finally, they remain committed to long-term growth investing in key areas to drive future performance.
Wow, that's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
But you made it very clear.
Well, I try my best.
Now let's turn to you, our listeners. What stood out to you from this deep dive into Coca-Cola?
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Did anything surprise you or spark a new question in your mind?
Head down to the comment section and let us know.
We love hearing from you.
We really do.
And we love engaging in these discussions.
So with its global reach, brand power, and all these strategic initiatives, will Coca-Cola be able to maintain its market dominance in the face of all these evolving consumer trends and this dynamic global landscape?
That's a great question.
It's something to ponder.
It is something to ponder, and stay tuned for part 2.
Yes, there's more to come.
We'll be exploring other aspects of Coca-Cola's business.
It's going to be fascinating.
See you soon.
See ya! Welcome back to our deep dive into Coca-Cola.
You know, as we've been exploring Coca-Cola's business, one thing that keeps coming up is this idea of evolution.
Absolutely. From their evolving strategies to the evolving tastes of consumers, Coca-Cola is constantly navigating a changing landscape.
Right. And this brings us to our next point from the analyst report, the evolving competitive landscape of the beverage industry.
Yeah, it's getting crowded out there.
It really is.
It's not just Coke and Pepsi anymore. You've got energy drinks, flavored waters, health-conscious juices, teas, kombucha, you name it.
It's overwhelming.
Consumers have so many choices now.
They do, and they're more discerning than ever.
Yeah, they're looking for beverages that align with their values and their lifestyles.
Absolutely. I know I'm definitely more conscious of sugar intake these days.
Me too.
It seems like everyone's got their own go-to beverage now.
It's true. So how does Coca-Cola respond to all of this?
Right. How do they stay relevant in this new world of beverages?
Well, they're recognizing that consumer preferences are shifting,
Okay.
and they're investing in brands that cater to those evolving tastes.
Like Fairlife.
Exactly. Fairlife is a prime example.
Premium milk.
High protein, low sugar.
Right. It's a whole different ball game.
Are also facing challenges.
Of course.
The competitive landscape is always shifting.
Especially with rivals like PepsiCo.
Oh, yeah, PepsiCo's always right there nipping at their heels.
It's a constant battle.
It is.
So what's the key for Coca-Cola?
I think they need to constantly reassess their brand identity, their
Okay.
messaging, their overall approach.
Make sure they're connecting with consumers.
Exactly. The report highlights the importance of targeted marketing campaigns.
Right? Campaigns that resonate with today's consumers.
Exactly. You can't just use the same old playbook anymore.
You got to keep up with the times.
Absolutely. And speaking of keeping up with the times,
Yeah.
the report also mentions the use of emerging technologies like generative AI.
AI in marketing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What's that all about?
So generative AI can personalize marketing messages, create new content.
Wow.
It can even help them anticipate consumer trends.
So they're using AI to predict the future of beverages?
In a way, yes.
That's amazing.
It's pretty cutting-edge stuff.
It really is. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From their strong Q4 performance to their all-weather strategy,
Right.
the risks they're facing, their long-term growth initiatives,
We even talked about their bottling operations.
and their embrace of AI,
It's clear that Coca-Cola is a company in motion,
constantly adapting and evolving.
trying to stay ahead of the curve.
But let's not forget the human element.
Oh, that's so important.
Behind all the stock market jargon and business strategies,
Right.
there are real products and real people who love them.
Exactly. Coca-Cola has built this incredible emotional connection with consumers.
It's true.
That's something that's very difficult to replicate.
You can't just manufacture that kind of brand loyalty.
Nope. It takes time and consistency.
And great products.
Of course.
So now I want to turn to our listeners.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for you, the individual investor?
That's a great question.
Should you rush out and buy Coca-Cola stock?
Well, as always, we're not giving financial advice.
Right.
The decision of whether or not to invest in any stock is a personal one.
Absolutely.
You need to do your own research, consider your own financial goals and risk tolerance.
Exactly. We're giving you the information and insights
Right.
to help you make informed decisions,
We're equipping you with the knowledge.
to ask the right questions, analyze the data, and form your own conclusions.
And hopefully we're making it a little bit fun along the way.
Absolutely. Learning about business and finance doesn't have to be dry and boring.
No way.
It can be engaging, thought-provoking, and even entertaining.
I think so.
So before we wrap up part 2, I have one final question for you to ponder.
Okay, I'm ready.
The report touched on Coca-Cola's efforts to mitigate the impact of commodity price fluctuation,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
especially for things like aluminum and agricultural products.
Yeah, those prices can be volatile,
They can.
and it can really impact a company's bottom line.
So the question is, in an increasingly unpredictable world,
Right.
how can companies like Coca-Cola effectively manage these kinds of supply chain risks
Mm,
and ensure the stability of their operations?
that's a great question.
It's something to think about
It really
as
is.
we navigate the complexities of the global marketplace.
Well said.
And that's a wrap for part 2 of our deep dive into Coca-Cola.
Stay tuned for part 3.
We'll be diving deeper into other fascinating aspects of Coca-Cola's business.
See you soon.
Welcome back to part 3 of our Coca-Cola deep dive.
It's been a journey.
It really has. We've been through a lot with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, we've explored this iconic company, from their financials and their strategic moves to the whole changing landscape of the beverage world.
Absolutely, we've covered so much ground. I think it's safe to say that.
There's more to Coca-Cola than meets the eye.
Yeah, way more.
It's a complex business.
Right.
And they've got this rich history, but also a future that's, full of both challenges and opportunities.
A lot of uncertainty.
Definitely, but I think it's important to keep the big picture in mind here.
What do you mean?
Well, we've looked at, all this financial data, their strategies.
Right, all the numbers.
The competitive landscape, all that stuff. But ultimately, Coca-Cola's success depends on one thing.
Okay, what's that?
Consumer behavior.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, they can have the best products, the most amazing marketing, but if people aren't buying it,
It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter at all.
So this report really emphasizes that
It does.
the need for Coca-Cola to understand what consumers want,
And adapt.
adapt to how those preferences are changing.
That's the key.
And we've already talked about, Fairlife.
Right.
That's a great example.
It is. It shows that they're responding to this demand for, healthier options.
More protein.
Yeah.
And less sugar.
And they're using AI
Oh, yeah.
in their marketing.
To try to anticipate those trends, to stay ahead of the curve.
That's right.
It's really fascinating.
It is, but it's not just about predicting the future.
Oh.
It's also about shaping it.
Shaping consumer behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
How do they do that?
Through their brand storytelling, through their marketing campaigns, through their product development.
So it's about creating a narrative.
A compelling narrative that resonates with people.
That makes them feel something.
Exactly. They need to connect their brands to values that people care about.
Like sustainability.
Sustainability, health and wellness, social responsibility, all of that.
So it's more than just selling a product.
It's about building a relationship with the consumer.
And I think that's what Coca-Cola has done so well over the years.
They have.
They built a brand that people trust.
And they feel good about.
Exactly.
It's an emotional connection.
It is. So thinking about the future of Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
can they maintain that connection?
As the world keeps changing.
Right, because everything is changing so rapidly.
Big question.
That's the million-dollar question.
It is. And honestly, the report doesn't give us a clear answer.
It doesn't.
But it does highlight some of the factors that will be crucial.
Okay, like what?
Well, they definitely need to keep innovating.
Makes sense.
Keep adapting to changing tastes and preferences.
Right, keep coming up with new things.
Exactly. And they need to be really mindful of this increasing focus on health and wellness.
Because that's not going away.
No, it's only going to get stronger.
So less sugar, more healthy options.
Exactly. And then they also have to navigate this, increasingly complex global marketplace where consumer behavior is becoming more and more diverse and unpredictable.
It's a lot to handle.
It is. It's a big challenge.
But they've been around for a long time.
That's true. They've showed resilience.
Yeah, they've adapted before.
I wouldn't bet against them.
I wouldn't either. So this has been a fascinating deep dive into Coca-Cola.
It has.
We've learned a lot
I think so.
about their business, their strategies, their challenges.
But I think the most important takeaway for me is
Yeah.
their ability to connect with consumers on an emotional level.
That's what makes them special.
Yes.
So any final thoughts for our listeners?
I would just encourage everyone to keep learning.
Yes.
Keep exploring Coca-Cola or any other companies that you're interested in.
Do your own research.
Exactly. Don't just take our word for it.
Dig deeper.
Ask questions, form your own conclusions.
That's great advice. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Coca-Cola,
Yeah.
be sure to subscribe to our channel
Hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss out on future episodes.
We've got lots more exciting content coming your way.
Deep dives into everything from cutting-edge technology to global economic trends.
And of course, more fascinating company analyses.
We're your guides to the world of knowledge and insights.
That's right.
And we're so glad to have you along for the ride.
We are.
Thanks for joining us.
See you on the next deep dive.
See ya.